I'm Tom Miranda, and welcome to a chilly -30 degrees at Lake of the Woods in northern Minnesota. I'm up here to do a video on proper ice fishing technique. We're going to talk about fishing technique for walleye, northern pike, sauger, and also panfish. We're not only going to fish here, but also go out in North Dakota to Williston and also Devil's Lake. It's going to be a real interesting video with a lot of new and innovative ideas on ice fishing. So sit back, relax, and watch some dynamite ice fishing. You know, there's a lot more to successful ice fishing than dropping a hook through the ice and hoping for the best. There's a lot of equipment involved, and if you're new to the sport, you need to take some time in selecting the right equipment. Let's go take a look at some of this ice fishing gear.
I'm Andy Anderson of Scenic Sports in Williston, North Dakota. Tom has asked me to show you a few things that you might need for ice fishing. One of the things Tom had before was an ice rod. This particular one happens to be a Mitchell purebred with a Zebco underspin reel. There's several other types of ice rods available, including the Berkeley Northern Lights, which has a little Daiwa spinning reel. Both nice outfits. If you're a little more cost conscious and would like to save a little bit more money, there's this type of an ice rod. It doesn't have a reel. Instead, you wind the line off. It's not quite so quick, and of course you don't have a drag when you might catch that big one. If you don't want an ice rod and you just like to have your line by the hole, there's the ice sticks. There's a type available with rattle reels, without reels. You just put a bobber on and watch your bobber. If you're not quite so patient and you'd still like to do a little fishing, there's the tip-up. This particular tip-up is a jigging tip-up. It's called a windlass tip-up. And the purpose in it is the wind will jig for you. Just like a regular tip-up, when you get a strike, the flag pops up, you set the hook and catch a big fish. The tip-up that is used more often in our area is the polar tip-up. The reason being is this tip-up, all of your line stays under the water. So even when you get a 20-degree below zero day, you can still fish. And you don't have any problem with line freeze-up. The fish takes the line, the flag pops up. Even can get a little light available that will light up to tell you got a bite at night. A lot of our walleye fishing is done at night. When you're fishing in a house, of course you don't have room for a tip-up. That's what the rattle reel's for. Put the rattle reel on the wall, and the noise will wake you up in the middle of the night if you happen to be sleeping, or at least alert you to it when you're playing cards. You can use a bobber in the water still, or you can use a line marker to tell which rattle reel made the noise and get after it on catching the fish. Well, we've picked out our rod and our reel, but now it's time to really get into it and pick out some jigs. There's a lot of different sizes, colors, everything available in jigs, so we have to determine, first of all, what type of fish we're going to be fishing for. If we're going to be fishing for panfish or perch, we're going to need some small jigs, but then if we're going after that hog walleye, we're going to need some big ones too. So after we've decided what we're going to fish for, then another thing we should consider is color. It helps if you can get a lead on maybe what color happens to be working at the lake. If you don't, normally any shop can tell you what some of the better colors are. In our area, we use a lot of greens, a lot of chartreuses, a lot of oranges. And on certain colors, maybe in the darker part of the evening, we might want to use a darker color, or maybe all of a sudden a glow-in-the-dark jig works. But with colors aside, we're getting into what I really prefer is the action of the jig. That's the reason we're spending our time out there jigging that rod up and down, is because we want that action. We want that sound that attracts fish. One of the newer things in jigs that I really have appreciated are the jigging spoons. Some of them, including the Jig-A-Wop's new Hogger spoon, the Rocker Minnow, the Castmaster, and also the Swedish Pimple. Some of the other jigs that are available include the Walleye Hogger, the Jig-A-Bits, which has been a popular walleye jig in our area, the Fireball, which a stinger hook can be added to, and of course the airplane jig. It's a good action jig, and many, many different types of little perch jigs. If we decide to go with tip-ups, all we really need to do is go to the old dependable treble hook and some fathead minnows. Well, we're ready to put some line on our jigging rod here. Just like during the summertime, we're just going to be putting monofilament line on this. But I prefer to tie it in with the fish. If we're going to be fishing for perch, we maybe want to use 1 pound, 2 pound, 4 pound, whatever your preference is. The lighter the line, the more feeling you're going to have. The quicker that jig is going to be down, you're going to get a different action. If we're going to be going after walleyes, we're probably going to need some 6 or 8 or even 10 pound. The one thing that is a little bit different than the summertime line is it's going to be exposed to some pretty extreme temperatures. And the new cold weather line that Berkeley has out has been an excellent line for me for ice fishing. It seems to retain its strength, and yet it has that limpness that lets me feel the strike. That's about all we need on a rod like this. When we get into a tip-up now, that's a little different matter. If we try to use a monofilament line on a tip-up, this small spool, it'll get some memory on it. Plus, when we pull it up, it's going to be a tangled up mess. So what we want to do here is we want to put on some braided line, either a 15 to 30 pound or 50 pound if you're going after northerns. But it'll be a line that will lay on the ice without getting tangled up, easier to pick up, easier to get back on the spool in the cold weather. There's also some other lines available strictly for tip-ups, like the flag line and Berkeley's new tip-up line. And that works excellent too. Once we put this line on, we're going to have a leader, a monofilament leader, if we're going to be fishing for walleye. So we're going to need to run about 3 to 6 feet of some type of a monofilament line. Once again, we can use a cold weather line or an XL or a Strand or whatever type of line we decide we want to use for that last 3-4 feet. The only purpose in that is just so that big line isn't hanging off the hook. If we're going to fish for northerns, all we really need to do is just grab a metal leader of some type and put on there so the teeth won't cut the line. And that'll pretty well get us set up for line on these. They only really need to put about 25 to 50 yards on this, depending upon what type of fishing you're doing. The weights we're going to be using for ice fishing are predominantly the egg sinker and the dipsy sinker and the split shot. The split shot will be the main thing we're using. You know, anytime you're using weights, the less is best. You're just using enough weights to get the job done. But we don't want to do any more than that. Of course, we've spent a lot of money here on a good rod, a good reel. We don't want to float on there that we can't wind in, because if we did, we wouldn't be able to use our reel. So with a good rod like this, and if you're experienced at fishing, you probably won't need anything to be able to feel that jig. And taps bottom and you're raising up off a little bit. So you might not need anything, but if you do, and if you're new at it, you add a spring bobber to this. A lot of the guys who have fished a lot still like a spring bobber. But the spring bobber is just a soft piece of wire out here. There's several different types available. Some attach onto the rod, some extend beyond the rod. But it just is a bite indicator, and it also, when you tap bottom, that spring bobber is going to come up so you know that you've taken the weight off. If you don't like using that, you can still go back to a float by using a slip bobber. It'll crank right up into your reel. Excellent for kids. I really enjoy it for my kids because you don't have to run over and untangle their lines. They can pretend they're summer fishing when you're using something like this. There again, anytime we're talking with bobbers, less is best. We don't want to be using a big bobber like this unless we absolutely have to for some reason. And in this case, with walleyes, panfish, we're not going to have to. Well, the only thing keeping us from fishing now is the ice. So here's a couple of things we need to get through that ice. If we got just a little bit of ice, an ice bar works great. It's quick, gets the job done. If we got a little more ice, a hand auger will do the job. Easy to carry. If we're talking about 2 foot of ice on a cold day, maybe it's a little nicer to have a power auger. This particular one happens to be a gas auger. It's a 10-inch. They're available in 8s and 10s, 6s, 12s, whatever size you need for the type of fish you're fishing. They're also available in electric motor. Up here, the gas works great for us. This particular one's a Jiffy Model 30, a good dependable auger. The main thing when you buy an auger is just buy an auger that you can get serviced in the area that you happen to live. Once we get the hole drilled, all we got to do is clean it out. And of course, a little ice scoop like this is handy. You don't want to be sticking your hands in that cold water. Once we got our hole clean, we're ready to fish. All we need now is a little bit of bait. We're going to be going after a mixed bag of fish today. We're hoping to get out after some panfish and walleyes and possibly even find some northerns. So we're going to be taking a mixed bag of bait along. We've got some small fatheads in case we happen to get into the perch fishing, pan fishing, and of course larger fatheads for walleyes, which is predominantly the bait in this area. In case we happen to find some shiners or get bothered by other game fish that we don't want, we're going to take suckers along, a little larger bait, with the hopes of homing in on just the walleyes. All of our bait's going to be oxygen bagged today because we're going out for a couple days and we just don't know for sure how long we're going to be out there, and we want to make sure we got good lively bait. It's important to keep the bait cool without freezing, just like in the summertime. And of course, you don't want to change the water temperature too dramatically on any bait, because 4 degrees will kill a sucker and about 20 degrees will kill a fathead. So you got to be careful on temperature, and don't be in a hurry to change the water, because normally the water that's in there is about as good as you're going to get. Another thing we're going to have to bring along today be some spikes or Eurolarva or waxworms. And of course, if we're jigging for perch, a lot of times they don't want to go for minnows, and something like this just is the cat's meow.
Thanks, Andy. Boy, you know, there's a lot of ice fishing gear out there. But don't worry, later in the video we're going to show you exactly what we use to catch fish, and especially those big fish. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about the clothing you're going to need to be out there on the ice. It's going to be cold out there. If you don't have an ice hut or shanty available to keep you warm, you may want to leave your vehicle running. That way you can go back and forth to your vehicle and get warmed up. While you're out there on the ice, you need a good pair of boots. Good sorrel boots with felt liners will keep your feet nice and warm, or I prefer the Rocky boots. They're real nice, and you can wear them around the house, and the Stencilate lining in them helps to get rid of some of that sweat that your feet may have. Really a nice set of boots. As far as clothing goes, you need to layer the clothing. That way when you go into your ice house, you can actually take your coat off and maybe a shirt, so you don't get overheated and come back out and get cold again. Silk underwear next to you, then some cotton underwear, then go with your pants or coveralls. I've got a couple pairs of shirts on under here, then I've got my parka. Gloves are also important. I like these heavy ski type, but you may want to have an extra pair of thinner gloves so you can feel the light fish biting. A lot of times these heavy gloves you'll miss, especially on panfish, because when you're jigging, they tend to strike light. Lastly, don't forget your headgear. It's cold out here. 80% of your body heat is going to go out through the top. A little hat like this isn't going to get the job done. I like to wear a fur hat. Since I trap in the wintertime too, I can make some use of those real prime pelts. This is a coyote cap here, and it's going to keep me nice and warm. Just right. Now let's get started. Let's go out and catch some fish. Okay. Pretty doggone cold this morning, but we're having some pretty good luck. We're fishing a little bit different than we normally do. We're not in an ice shack. It's colder, but we're able to move to the fish. You know, when you fish in an ice shack, you have to wait on the fish to come to you. Out here, we're going to the fish. We've got the track van behind us, kind of to break the wind. We're drilling some test holes, we're fishing. If we have any luck, we stay. If we don't, we move up or down this lake, try to find a better spot. What, this 5, 6 fish now in about 15 minutes? I think we're going to stay here a little longer. Things slow down, we're going to move on. How's it going over there, Dan?
Oh, very good.
Just picked up another nice one. They must be swimming through.
Yep, that's cool.
Eating size, anyway. We've selected to film 3 separate locations in this video. Lake of the Woods in northern Minnesota, Lake Sakakawea out near Williston, North Dakota, and Devil's Lake in central North Dakota. You may not live near any of these areas, but you can bet there's going to be a good winter bite in some lake near you. How do you find this lake or river? Well, talk to the local bait shop. You're going to find out that these people are going to be really willing to help you go out there and find the fish. Not all lakes have a good winter bite. That's why you need to talk to some of these people. Once you get out on the lake, it's going to be a little bit tougher to locate the fish, and you're going to have to use a few tricks. Of course, the most obvious one is to go where the other fishermen are. Find the fish houses that are out there on the ice, Go in there and pop a few holes and try your luck. You're going to find out that most fishermen are going to be real receptive to having you nearby. That's good sportsmanship, and that's what's real nice about some of this winter ice fishing. Shoot, a couple times we've had fishermen come in our shack to get warmed up. A lot of camaraderie. It's real fun. And they'll help give you some tips to help you catch fish. And some of the bigger fish come just from those type of tips. Another good tip is to use maps on the bigger waters. You're going to find if you get out on a lake like Sakakawea where you have a Missouri River drainage running through there, it almost takes a map to learn the structure. You're going to find those big walleyes and sauger staying out near the main channel, coming up on those mud flats at night. You'll be able to find that main channel with the use of a map. Another real good way to find the fish is with an electronic fish finder. Let's go see how Andy's locating some fish here in a small pond in North Dakota.
A lot of my customers have asked me if they could use a depth finder of some type to help them find fish in the wintertime. So a lot of times it gets frustrating not knowing if there's fish there, and it is kind of fun to use a depth finder. I've used them before for catching salmon through the ice and other suspended fish when we were jigging, because we could jig at the particular depth that the fish were at. Just to show you an example, I brought along a CRT. This particular one is a CRT. There's also LCDs and flashers available. But the CRT is good because it can be used in cold weather. But anything you got is better than nothing. We mounted it on a little board here just to get the transducer below the ice. It's a very simple mounting. You can get elaborate as you want, but the main thing is get it below the ice, and of course you have to have some type of a battery source. If you're in a house, that's not a problem. But get the transducer below the ice, and I'll show you real quickly here how we get this thing running. We're fishing about 14 feet of water here, so we're going to set this on about 20 feet. You could also zoom in on the bottom if you're fishing for a fish that's going to be close to the bottom. Then we'll adjust our gain and pick up a little bit of surface clutter, and then back off until we clean up our screen. Then we can set our alarm right down to the bottom, because we're not going to have any changes in our bottom, of course, being we're not moving. Now any fish that we get coming through this area is going to set off the alarm and the beep. We're going to notice that, and we're going to be able to fish at that particular depth. In this lake we're fishing for perch, walleye, bluegill, and crappie as well. And some of those fish, like the crappies and the bluegills, are going to be suspended, maybe even up in 5 feet of water. But the walleyes are going to be in the bottom foot, and the perch are probably going to be right on the bottom. But it'll give us a little bit of an idea of what we're going to be doing for fishing here. Here we're starting to pick up some fish now. There's a fish over here. He's suspended maybe a foot and a half off the bottom or so. It's a little bit high for a perch, but pull up and see if we can get him here. There you can see him coming up on the depth finder. Well, he's no monster, but you can sure see how a depth finder aids you in catching a fish. It gives you an idea what's there, it gives you a little bit of warning, gets you jigging. There again, if we're fishing for walleyes, there's times there's not going to be any fish, and it might save the day because we're jigging at the right time rather than the wrong time.
Welcome to Devil's Lake, North Dakota, home of the jumbo-sized perch. Well, this one's not a jumbo, but we'll get into them here in a little bit. I've been drilling some holes down along here, hoping to find a school of perch working through. What we'd like to talk about now is pan fishing technique. Panfish being perch, bluegills, smaller fish like that. There's some different things you need to think about, different size tackle, different techniques to be real successful at panfish. But panfishing's sure a lot of fun. Once we find a school of nice ones, we're going to move the ice house in so we can go inside and really watch the bobbers drop. Let me tell you something, you get a school of panfish under you, it's nothing but bobber action and reeling them in. If he's too small, like this one, we'll just chuck her back in the hole and go for another one. Let's get into some exciting pan fishing. Fishing panfish through the ice is ice fishing in its purest form. A jigging rod, light line, small jig, bobber, and bait are all that's required for great fishing fun. All that is except a hole through the ice over the fish. Panfish like bluegill, crappie, and perch are school fish, and they'll tend to school by size. So if you're catching little fish, it usually means you'll have to move around to locate a school of larger or eating size. Structure of the bottom will tend to influence moving schools of panfish, so be aware of sections of the shoreline that jut out, as well as drop-offs or ledges in the bottom. A depth finder is ideal for locating schools and interpreting bottom structure. Perch will tend to stay on the bottom, up to about 1 foot off the bottom. Bluegill and crappie, on the other hand, may suspend much further off the bottom, and the depth finder will really aid in locating these fish, unless you've got a favorite hole located already. Daily possession limits are usually high in most states on panfish. In fact, 2 hours of hot action at Devil's Lake can fill a 5-gallon bucket with some delicious eating. We found the small black jigs baited with minnows to be best on the larger perch, using a slow but consistent jigging action. It's too doggone cold outside anyway. What's this, 5 days before Christmas and we have 80 below wind chills?
You can't stand it out there.
It's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. They were hitting here for a minute ago, and now they've kind of died off.
There's a lot of perch here, because we've taken a lot of perch in here.
Well, we've taken 80, 85 perch on this area.
Yeah.
Some nice ones, some small ones, but
They seem to school according to size.
yeah.
If it's a nice enough day, you can go looking for them. It's a lot easier to find the bigger perch.
Yeah.
What do you got on, Andy? I got a walleye willow on. It's a new lure that's out, and I got a power grub on. I've had pretty good luck with it.
Right.
Probably just a few minutes ago they were biting her.
What are you using, Tom? I've got a little jig on there, a little black jig, and a small minnow. Trying to do something different than you guys are doing. Trying to get the big one. I want to get the big one. It's only a $5 bet, but I want to win. You know, I'm just that kind of guy, I guess.
Well, I can feel the pocketbook going already. Well, let's make it supper.
Okay, supper sounds
Oh
good.
boy, that's worse. Well, I'll maybe have supper then.
There you go. I got it.
Oh, hopefully it's a big school. Huh?
Yeah, hopefully it's a big school.
I hope it's a bigger school.
He took her, though.
Little plan to lose that one.
Get off there.
That's a little jig and ant you got there.
Jig and ant, that's what they call
Jig
that,
and
huh?
ant. Yeah, black and white seem to be pretty good colors in the jig and ant.
Yeah. Into the bucket. Here we go. Pass me one of them grubs down there. I'll try that.
Haha. Any bigger than his? Yeah, a little bit bigger.
Maybe we'll get back into them here.
It's three-quarter pound perch. That's fairly good eating size. I'm waiting for the big one though. I don't want to eat fish. I want to go to some fancy restaurant. Here, this is a big one. Ooh. Oh. Nope, I thought I lost. By God, I got him. Yeah, there's a big one. Well,
We better start weighing them. Make sure who's paying.
this one isn't dinner.
Yeah. It's bound to be in there. I'd like to get into some crappies. You'd said this general area where we are is usually pretty good for them.
Crappies and bluegills as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there again, they suspend and you never know. I mean, they move into an area and you catch some nice bluegills, nice crappies. This area, not many people know about crappies and bluegills, and I don't know that much about fishing.
How big do the bluegills get through here, though?
Oh, they catch them pound. We've weighed in some that were over a pound.
All right.
Pound and a quarter, something like that.
Yeah, that'd be a nice one, too.
Yeah, and they're a good fighting fish. I really prefer to eat perch. I like perch over walleye.
Sure.
But the bluegills, crappies are a little harder for me to clean. I don't have the finesse.
I heard that.
But,
I heard that.
they've also got a Eurolarva, which is another type, and Eurolarva, they feed them colored meat so that they have different colors. There's greens and reds and yellows.
And they take on this color.
They take on the color. And of course in fishing, you know how important color can be. And I've noticed a difference in colors. You know, the red ones seem to work really well here.
Okay,
Here
guys.
Tom's got one.
Holy smokes. Okay.
It's like he's buying.
Yeah, the black is the thing to have, I think.
Back down the hole he goes.
No matter what kind of jig you have on, it seems like you should have the other guy's jig on.
Yeah. The one
right.
hole can catch all the fish. That's what
Yeah.
I can't figure out. Be 100 perch down there and only
As long
one
as
guy
it's,
to
as
get
long as it's your hole, right?
That's right.
These panfish, as it starts getting dark, and seem like they really curtail. But it
Yeah, yeah. Once it's dark, the pan fishing, as far as the perch, is definitely over.
What about the bluegills and the
Well, crappies, I understand that, you know, in some areas they fish them with light,
Mm-hmm.
but here nobody does.
Oh, there we go.
But that's when the walleye start to pick up. So a lot of guys, if they're in a walleye area, they'll be fishing for panfish, and when it's time for the walleye to start hitting, they'll maybe go with a little bigger jig and fathead minnows or a sucker minnow. In this case, it's a spot that has both walleyes and northerns. So, you know, it's something that once it gets dark enough where they're getting that twilight area, 2-3 hours there, guys shouldn't go home. You should fish for walleyes.
I missed them. Yeah, it's...
What size walleye are in this? Like,
Well, they've done netting up in this area, you know, when the fish and game comes in and they catch suckers and perch and stuff. They've thrown back 10-pounders in here.
Is that right?
But yet very few people fish walleyes here. I know guys who come in and caught limits of walleyes. Nice colored walleyes, good looking walleyes.
Think you'd be able to pull them in on that ultralight?
Well, the 4-pound line will hold up. I know the rod will.
Yeah.
I've had some pretty nice stringers come through my store. There was the biggest stringer we've ever had during the wintertime was 5 fish, and they were over 50 pounds.
Is that right?
Caught through the ice. All walleye. Nice fish.
You guy might be lucky. Will they hit a waxworm or a mealworm?
Occasionally. Even a northern occasionally. I got a little
Right.
tap going.
Uh-oh. Took my fish right off my line.
Oh, seas. That's
Oh,
a pretty
yeah.
nice one.
You're getting a
They're
little
getting bigger. Maybe the school's changing on
Getting
there.
better,
Huh?
yeah.
Changing of the guard.
We must be into high school or something here.
Hope the teachers are coming through. The students.
Well,
Well, we had about
This has been a good little lure for me. Here again, it's a light lure. You get a good flutter to it. You get a slow sinking action, which is usually when the fish are going to be hitting it. Well, it seems like it's been a pretty good lure.
Oh,
Sorry about that. To
that's
give you a little
okay.
shower.
I only got to go out in 40 below weather tonight. I'm frozen against the ice shack.
Truck probably won't start anyway.
Yeah, probably not.
I haven't had a bite lately. I think he might have stuck my bait here.
When you're hooking these spikes up, the end with the 2 spots on it, that's the rear end, and if you just stab them through a little bit of that end and just kind of leave them hanging there,
Does it matter for the fish though?
well, I don't think they really care, but it seems like the worm, you get a
Last
little more
one,
action
yeah.
out of the worm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because those
Put a couple, 3 on
mealworms,
your
not the
belt.
mealworms, but the
Waxworms?
larvae, they seem to be more livelier than the waxworms.
Yeah, and especially when the spikes or your larvae get warm, they really start moving. When you drop them into that cold water, though, I wonder what that does to them.
I enjoyed this as much as fishing out of a boat, if not more. I
Yeah.
mean, it's nice and warm. The food's over here. There's no wind.
Yeah, that's
Down near Chamberlain, when we fish the river down there, it's windy every day. It's just waves and sunburn. And
must be
this is
Saskatchewan
nice.
weather. If there isn't a day without wind, there's something wrong.
Yeah. And we've had good luck, really, for the weather. You know.
Yeah.
The weather patterns do make a difference, there's no
Well,
question.
sure. It's just like the day when we really got into the walleyes
Yep.
good there.
Yep.
There was another colder front coming, and it sure was good there for that one time.
Yeah. You were telling me you bagged a pretty nice sockeye.
Yeah. I caught the year before last, early ice, I caught a 9-pound saugeye. It was the world record. And then that same year, it was beat twice. And it was a rather short-lived record. I mounted it anyway.
I heard that. Well, I bet you that was a dandy.
Yeah.
And that's a cross between a walleye and a sauger.
Right,
Yeah.
right. They don't really know, I mean, as far as how much they could cross either. I mean, supposedly it's a sterile fish, but you know, there's a lot of question about that. And I'm no biologist, so I really don't understand it, but they really think that there's a lot of different speculation on how big a sauger can get without having some walleye in it.
Yeah, this is what Devil's Lake perch look like.
Check that out. Man, that's a nice one. I'd like to catch a bucket full of those, huh?
Oh yeah, you betcha. Oh, even the smaller ones from pound on up.
Yeah.
Big perch.
Yeah. There's another one
They
here.
all average about this size.
That's about average then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we know we're going to move our ice shack over here. These guys got the...
Pick up a few, but
Yep.
I betcha.
they're biting really hard. They're biting
Cold weather
really
just
light.
shut off, and now we got a warm front that's coming in this afternoon and tomorrow morning, so they should start picking up.
You betcha.
It's been pretty cold, and it's kind of miserable just being out here, even in a shack.
I heard that. You guys got a nice little portable. It makes it pretty nice to be able to pick up and follow the fish around, huh?
You bet. Instead of moving them big houses around, it's kind of hard. It's not so bad this year. We don't have the snow like we did last year.
Yeah, you betcha.
Last year they had to have the tractors and the blowers out, but
Nice.
got to please the out-of-staters and everything.
There you go.
No, these are nice perch.
Well, they catch a lot of bigger perch over here than the main lake. The last
Main
couple
Lake,
years.
a lot smaller perch. And East Bay, I just started fishing it last spring when there's the ice just before the ice went off, and
Sure.
they were doing real well. A lot of 2-pounders, 2-pound plus.
Heck of a deal.
215's a lake record, so.
Oh,
After the 3
you're after the 3-pounder. Okay.
Big one, yeah. You betcha. But I'll take perch like this anytime.
You betcha. Well, thanks, guys.
You betcha.
Have a good day.
You bet.
Catch
Yeah.
some big
Get back in there and
ones
catch some
here.
more.
Yeah, you betcha.
You bet. Safety is something you can't take for granted when you're ice fishing. The thickness of the ice. How thick is it? You better know before you go out there. Don't take that for granted either. Is the water moving under that ice? Are you on a river? What may seem safe one day may be open water the next. So be careful when you're out there on that ice. Also, take a companion. You're better off with 2 guys anyway. You'll have more fun, more companionship. Also, if somebody gets into trouble, you've got somebody there to help. The weather. Don't take it for granted either. There's nothing to break the wind out on a frozen lake, and the wind chills can be severe. Tips of fingers and toes, earlobes, nose, are all subject to frostbite. So think about those things. Probably the biggest killer of ice fishermen is carbon monoxide poisoning. Right here. Be careful. This shack is made to sleep in. It's got a real good heater in it. Real good heaters can go bad. Think about what's going on out there. There's a lot of good ice fishing out there. You don't want to ruin it by some tragic accident. Be careful. We've been talking a lot about the weather, but the weather's important to successful ice fishing. It can be brutal out here. Severe cold wind chills, snow. It's pretty tough to stay out on the ice and monitor those poles or lines. In order to be a successful ice fisherman, though, you've got to keep equipment out and operating in all types of weather. There's an ingenious device that can really help you catch the fish, and it's called a polar tip-up. Let's see what Terry has to say about it.
If you're not the kind of fisherman that likes to jig, try the polar tip-up. The one I have here is a fluorescent orange polar tip-up. It's got a bright orange flag. You can see it from a long ways away from your shack, from your truck. They're an excellent idea for fishing because when you have below the ice, this part is submerged, but your top part isn't. Nothing freezes. She's good in all kinds of weather out here. It can be 40 below, but this thing is still mechanically sound. The one I'm using right now, I got a 30-pound test line, black braided line on here with a leader on of 10-pound nylon line, like a jig on the end with a sucker minnow. What I'll do with this here is I'll drop her down to about 2 inches from the bottom, set her back down on the ice again, make it so that it's sideways to your vehicle or your fish shack so you can watch that flag jump up. Set your flag back down again, and she's ready to go. Maintenance free, you don't ever have to touch her. Got it.
I always want to give them a little bit of line in case they're down there and they're not taking or running with it. If you give them a little bit of line when you pick your line up, they can't feel it in case they don't have it in their mouth yet. He's going the other way, opposite of the current. Oh, he's a big one. Holy man. That's got to be 10 pounds plus. Oh, take a look at there. That's what makes you come out here when it's 45 below. And everybody says you're crazy and you're sitting at home watching TV. I wouldn't trade this for the TV. God. What a fish. Once your hands get wet, it's about warm-up time. If the fish are going, the T-bar spins. Spins very easily. If you watch, a lot of times, if they're not spinning like we did there, I like to give them lines so I can feel them. A lot of times if I get up there and the T-bar's already going, you can just grab it with 2 fingers like that and set the hook that way and then go to taking it out of the hole hand over hand. But this area is pretty well known for producing a lot of very large fish. Unlike the summer months, where you get the numbers and you can go out and you can catch a bunch of fish in a day, you might come out here in the winter like this here and catch 2 or 3 over a period of 2 or 3 days. But there again, you get the bigger fish in the wintertime. This is a big mud flat all the way across the lake. And you've got anywhere from 5 feet on the shore. When you finally hit your deepest depth, which is about 15 feet, it runs all the way across. The walleyes in the wintertime especially like to come up in the mud flats to feed. There's a lot of bait fish down this area, a lot of smelt.
I suppose the bottom temperature would be 50 degrees or thereabouts, I would assume.
Yeah.
The
So none of the walleyes are suspended, they're all down near the bottom.
yeah, walleyes don't very often suspend, at least in our lake. We catch most of them real close to the bottom. Just, we're generally fishing within 6 inches of the bottom. If we're still fishing with bait, we usually try to set them 3 or 4 inches off bottom, or float them up off bottom, whichever the case.
Yeah.
And also jigging, do the same thing.
Sure. I know we're pretty alone out here. Seems like there ain't very many people jigging, even though it's kind of warmed up this afternoon. Why is it up here in the North Dakota country we don't have a lot of guys out jigging?
Well, for one thing, we don't have the people.
Yeah, that's true.
But the other thing is we've got large walleyes here. During the wintertime, we've got 10s, 12s, 13s, even 14s. But there's not as many fish, and I think that's a lot of it. If we could be catching fish constantly, we'd jig more often. Now the way it is, when it gets nice out, we jig. When peak periods, we jig. Times when the fish are moving, we're more apt to jig. But to sit and jig a long time without a bite is tough.
I betcha. I can understand that. We've been sitting here about 20 minutes, and I'm still waiting on. I know he's down there, though. I know he's down there. Strategies on walleye and sauger in the lake here. Do you have any secrets or tips you could give us?
Well, a person has to stay with them. keep on them. The walleyes seem to bite in about a 3-day period, and if you can get on top of that, the time of the day they're biting, possibly the next day they'll do the same thing. If you try to hit or miss one day, you're awful lucky to hit them on that period. But the guys who continually fish catch a lot of fish, and a lot of big fish.
Yeah.
I guess as far as, they're again fishing the structure, the walleyes, of course, are in the mud flats. The saugers tend to be a little deeper. They can share the same area. The saugers like current, and we've got current out here in the river channel that we can, find breaks in the current to fish for saugers. And of course the ling also identify with a little more bottom structure. In this particular area we happen to have a few logs on the bottom, a few rock mixed in with the mud, and it seems to help as far as the saugers and of course more ling, which we've caught a few ling. If you're an outdoorsman, you can appreciate it up here. This area isn't for everybody, but the people who hunt and the people who fish really enjoy living up here.
Well, I hate to break this up, but we got a tip-up over there. You feel him down there?
Yep. It's taking a lot of slack. Oh, it's a nice fish.
Careful.
Nice fish.
Check it out.
About a 9-pounder, Tom.
Man, oh man, well you see.
Is it worth the wait?
Can't hardly hang on to it. Man, is that a fish. Hey Terry, check. Hey, the tip-up up over there.
But it looks like you're going to start biting here, doesn't it?
No, it didn't seem like this. Can't feel a thing. Oh. There we go.
All right, way to go.
Small.
It's still here though.
Still here, yeah, I'll tell you. It should start picking up now with the evening coming in like this.
All of the fishing on this video has taken place on early ice in December. We found the walleye and sauger bite to be pretty good, but centered around a 1-hour run in the morning and evening. Lake of the Woods produced fast action during these hour stretches, but the fish were much smaller than we took out of Lake Sakakawea.
About a 9-pounder, Tom.
Winter walleye are picky eaters and needed to be enticed to strike. Aggressive jigging during the peak hours and constantly changing to the liveliest minnows on jig rods and tip-ups was the real ticket. Though many of the guides suggested hooking the minnow through the dorsal fin, we found that lipped hooked minnows work just as well. It's also best to change the minnow after each catch to be sure you've got a lively, attractive bait working below. Occasionally jigging up to 2 feet from the bottom, then releasing the bait down to the bottom induced walleye to strike. And northern were particularly fond of the larger sucker minnows. Most all of our bites were very light hits, even on the largest fish, and their fight was not really hard due to the cold water. But extreme care had to be taken when pulling the larger fish through the hole, as one jerk on the line and it could be cut by the ice on the hole's edge. The buddy system of one reeling and one grabbing worked best when someone was nearby to help. You know, this Lake of the Woods country's got to be good fishing if you run into Al Linder. Al, you had some good luck up here?
We had a good morning. I'll tell you, we had from 7:30 to probably 10:30 in this 200-foot stretch. I'd say we caught 35 or 40 walleyes up to about 4 1/4. Whew. And it's a phenomenal fishery. There's no question about it. It's got to be one of the best walleye lakes in the world.
I betcha. I know it's pretty doggone cold for being before Christmas time here.
This is unseasonably cold. We were saying earlier, this is January weather, not mid-December. Although for this lake, your real good early ice fishing is usually your best until about January.
Yeah.
Then you pick up on a sauger from there.
You betcha. While we take a look at some earlier action, let's talk a little bit about this Lake of the Woods fishery. There's a tremendous amount of walleye taken out of this lake.
It's incredible. Yeah. You know, it's tens of thousands of fish being caught, and I personally believe a lot has to do with the fact that they removed those 11 commercial nets off of this end of the lake. Fishing this lake I lived in Minnesota 20 years now, and I've been fishing it for those 20 years, always spending spring in a river, in a rainy river, and seeing the size of those fish change tremendously.
You bet. And it looks like the fishing up here is getting better and better. You know, Al, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. You and the people at In Fisherman are really doing a super job. Now let's take a look at some more great ice fishing action. Well, we need to talk a little bit about the presentation method. We're using a fathead minnow on a fire-eyed jig here, and I haven't had any luck with it, doggone it.
There we go. Nice walleye. Took that grub off the bottom with that bottom bouncer. Boy, that is nice.
He's catching all the fish.
What I was using here is a green Lindy flat-foot jig. And bounce her off the bottom, bring her up about an inch and a half off the bottom, 2 inches off the bottom, with a sucker minnow. What I'll do is I'll take that sucker minnow and hook him through the lips. Come down, hook him through the lips, set him back down again. It's cold weather, you got to get him down fast or she won't perform for you down below. Get her down the bottom best you can and jig her off the bottom.
Sauger. Pretty nice sauger, though. I just about changed my hook over. I was going to go with that flathead jig. You know, I'm hooking my minnow behind the dorsal fin using this fire-eye jig. I had pretty good luck with that. There was a couple other type jigs that we had real good luck with while we're fishing up here, especially on the tip-ups and rattle reels, was a treble hook with a spoon setup. We had best luck with the fluorescent orange and 2 minnows hooked through the lips. Another good rig was a Lindy. Basically, a Lindy's a floating minnow with a weight attached to the line separate from the hook. This lets the minnow float about 6 to 8 inches off the bottom and lets him be free to swim around. We also had good luck with a floating fireball jig with stinger hook setup. The stinger hook is basically a treble hook that floats near the dorsal area of the minnow, and it's real effective for those walleyes and sauger that bite light. That's a nice little sauger. You know, proper bait presentation is real important, and we've just talked about 5 separate types that we've had good luck with. You may find that none of these types work for you. That's why Andy, when he was back in the shop, was talking about so many different types of jigs, colors, sizes, shapes. You just never know what's going to work. There's a lot of factors involved. Talk to the local fishermen out on the lake and also the local bait shop to find out what's working and also have a nice assortment in your tackle box. Don't be afraid to try something different. In fact, if I hadn't picked up this sauger in 4 or 5 minutes, I think I'd go back with what Terry's using, because he's sure having some good luck over there, you dirty dog. Let's look at some more great ice fishing action. Hey! I got one on! All right. I found the ledge. Runs right along the edge of these cattails. Drilled a few holes back behind here. Try to find where it dropped off. Water's pretty shallow up here along the edge. It drops off here about 5 or 6 feet. I picked up a sauger earlier. I wasn't having much luck. I was jigging a fuzzy grub. Oh, it's about 3.5 pound walleye. Not too bad.
Feels like kind of a muddy bottom here. It's kind of a bottom we want. Hoping to get in a little bit more jigging tonight before it gets too cold and we've got to move inside. Been pretty good action. Got a tap on her. Tell this fish has been on the bottom. It's got some blood vessels in the bottom here that are broken. They're bottom feeding right now. Pretty decent walleye. You can tell it's a walleye, of course, by the dark on the back of the dorsal fin here. Also a good obvious white spot on the tail. So let's get baited up here and see if we can get some more.
Had some pretty good luck last night after dark. It's too doggone cold to be outside. We're using the tip-ups outside. We're using some rattle reels inside. Basically, they just bolt on the wall of the ice house, lower our line down with the minnows on a jig or just a small treble hook. Put a little bobber on that line. Keep that minnow dancing around about 2 inches off the bottom. About 2 hours after dark, which is pretty unusual in 14 feet of water, we had some luck. We picked up almost a 10-pound walleye, and I've had him out here on a stringer, keep him till the light got better this morning. Unbelievable. This Williston, North Dakota area has what they call hogs. This is a hog. Just fantastic fishing. Unbelievably cold, but hey, our ice house is 50, 60 degrees inside. Actually has a couple beds in it. We even stayed overnight. We didn't have much luck later, but a couple hours after dark, that is an unbelievable fish. Usually, let me put him back down in the water again. I think that's going to be a mounter for sure. Not very many people pick up walleyes over 8 pounds. And that one for sure is over 8 pounds. Go on down there, big guy. These walleyes moving from the deep water into the shallows, you're going to pick them up towards evening. In fact, the best fishing is from about 3 o'clock till about 8 o'clock at night. In fact, about 8 o'clock is when we picked him up. Walleye fishing can be good throughout the entire night, though. That's why we stayed out here and keep our ice shack in the shallower water, running tip-ups farther out in the deep. The walleyes come in, your tip-ups start to hit early in the afternoon, and then your ice house hits at night. Hot dog.
Landed?
Boy, something down there, for sure. Come on, baby.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Nice walleye.
You went right after that. Get that out of there. Come on, baby. Oh, my minnow fell off. pretty doggone nice little walleye. And you'll notice we weren't jigging. These rattle reels are very effective. We've got a elongated type jig on the end of here with a minnow hooked behind the dorsal fin, keeping them about 2 inches off the bottom. But there's another little trick here that made this real effective. Now, get myself unhooked there. It's called a lunker light. Basically, it's a piece of fluorescent plastic that glows in the dark, where you just have it tied on about a foot above our hook. It's glowing down there, and it may be attracting those walleyes over. Then they'll be able to see the minnow dancing around near the bottom. Worked for this one anyway. That's a heck of a deal. You're inside these ice houses, using these rattle reels are super effective. You can be laying there asleep with your limit of rattle reels down. When you get a fish on there, most generally when they take the hook, you hear that rattle sound, you'll wake up, you'll be able to go over there. Shoot, they even work great during the day. You may be eating or not paying attention to the line. All of a sudden you hear the rattle, you know you've got one. Pretty nice stringer of popsicles. The daily limit here in North Dakota is 5 walleyes. I'm pretty proud of this stringer. We did catch bigger fish earlier in the week, but doggone it, who can kick on a stringer like this? I took 4 of these fish on tip-ups, and 1 of them jigging in the house. We had real good luck with those polar tip-ups, and this sure proves their reliability. We're using the treble hook with the fluorescent orange spinner on the top with 2 minnows. Excellent success. About 4 hours worth of fishing here. Looks like I got some cleaning to do. Dandy catch. I got one on here. Nice crappie. Whether you're fishing panfish like I am, or you're after those big walleyes like we caught earlier in the tape, you really ought to go out and try ice fishing. It's a lot of fun. Well, we've come to the end of the time that we had to share with you. We hope you enjoyed the video and picked up on some ice fishing tips. I'd like to thank Border View Lodge for their hospitality up there at Lake of the Woods in northern Minnesota. Some really good walleye fishing and sauger up there. And also Andy Anderson of Scenic Sports in Williston, North Dakota. Without their help, it'd have been tough to produce this video. The next time your favorite fishing hole freezes over, maybe you should get out there, pop a few holes through, and enjoy some dynamite ice fishing.
God. What a fish.